Stop scrolling. Archangel Michael needs your full attention right now, because what he is about to reveal is something he has been trying to warn you about for weeks. Something he has whispered through your dreams, your sudden gut feelings, your moments of unexplained anxiety, and every little sign you shrugged off as coincidence. But it was never coincidence. It was protection. He says, "I'm sorry, but I must tell you this now, because the time for gentle warnings is over." Someone close to you, someone you trust, someone who smiles at you, talks to you, maybe even prays with you, is preparing to betray you within the next 48 hours. This is not to scare you. This is not to make you paranoid. This is heaven trying to reach you before something unfolds behind your back that could have damaged your spirit, your peace, or your destiny. Archangel Michael has been watching this person's intentions shift, their thoughts darken, their jealousy grow, their heart twist with envy, confusion, or resentment. He has seen conversations you were not part of, messages you never read, expressions you never caught, tones you never heard. He has seen the truth of their spirit, and he has seen the moment they decided, consciously or subconsciously, to betray you. And what's chilling is that they don't see it as betrayal. They see it as necessary, justified, or harmless. But spiritually, it is neither harmless nor small. It carries the potential to derail you just enough to stop the blessing that is days away from reaching your hands. You have been praying for breakthrough, for clarity, for elevation, and that elevation is coming, but elevation attracts both angels and opposition. This betrayal was meant to distract you right before your breakthrough arrives. Archangel Michael has been blocking this betrayal for as long as possible. He has delayed conversations, disrupted their timing, confused their plans, and even caused this person to hesitate when they almost acted sooner. But heaven can only intervene for so long. Free will still exists. And now he must warn you, not to make you fearful, but to make you prepared, to make you discerning, to help you step into the next 48 hours with spiritual eyes wide open. You've been feeling something already, you just didn't know what it was. The sudden heaviness around certain people, the feeling that someone's energy shifted, the way someone's tone recently felt off, passive-aggressive, cold, or strangely curious about your life. The sudden distance or sudden fake closeness. The questions that seemed harmless but carried deeper intention. Your body noticed before your mind understood. Your intuition has been sounding the alarm like a soft buzzing under your thoughts. You felt it, but didn't know why. This is why. Archangel Michael says, do not fear. This betrayal will not break you. It will expose what must be removed before I lift you. He wants you to understand something crucial. This betrayal is not punishment. It is revelation. It is the final test before your next level. It will reveal who cannot go with you into the chapter you've been praying for. Some people love you as long as you stay where they are. But the moment God starts elevating you, their heart flips. Jealousy poisons them. Comparison eats them. Fear of losing you makes them sabotage you. And this person, whether it's a friend, a relative, a coworker, a partner, or someone who acts like they adore you, is wrestling with that poison right now. They won't tell you. They won't show you. But heaven sees what humans hide. Within 48 hours, this betrayal may come in one of several forms, and Archangel Michael needs you to be ready for every possibility. It might be gossip, someone saying something behind your back that reaches the wrong ears. It might be a secret shared, a confidence you entrusted to them finally leaking out. It might be an opportunity blocked, someone giving negative feedback about you because they don't want to see you advance. It might be a lie, small enough to slip under your radar, but big enough to damage your reputation or your peace. It might be an emotional shift, someone suddenly turning cold, distant, rude, or strangely irritated with you. It might be a confrontation where their true opinions spill out. It might even be betrayal by silence, someone refusing to defend you when they should, someone choosing not to help you when they could, someone standing back while others speak against you. Betrayal is not always a knife. Sometimes it's absence. Sometimes it's a smile that hides a bruise meant for your spirit. Sometimes it's someone allowing harm to reach you when they easily could have stopped it. But listen carefully. Archangel Michael is not telling you this so you become anxious, suspicious, or paranoid. He is telling you this because heaven is about to reroute your life. When God removes someone, he shows you why. When God protects you, he exposes what you didn't see. When God is preparing to elevate you, he cuts off anyone whose hands are not clean, whose intentions are not pure, whose presence would corrupt the blessing coming toward you. This betrayal is the final unlocking of a door you thought was closed. It is the final confirmation your spirit needed to detach from someone you kept giving chances to. It is the final push heaven has been trying to give you. You are stepping into a season that demands your spiritual perimeter be guarded. Everyone cannot have access to your next chapter. Everyone cannot be trusted with your growth, your dreams, your conversations, your vulnerability, your opportunities. Some would celebrate you publicly and curse you privately. Some would clap for your small wins and resent your big ones. Some would love the version of you that suffers, but hate the version of you that flourishes. Archangel Michael says this betrayal will be your liberation. It will free you from a relationship or connection that has been draining you spiritually without you noticing. You've been tired around them. You've been second-guessing yourself. You've been feeling an emotional heaviness after speaking to them. You've been feeling watched, judged, or subtly belittled. Those feelings were not random. They were warnings. They were energetic truth. They were divine signals. And within 48 hours, the mask falls. Not because you force it, but because heaven reveals it. Something will slip. Something will be said. Something will reach your ears. Someone will behave differently. And when it happens, you won't be confused. Your spirit will whisper, "This is it. This is what Archangel Michael was preparing me for." And here's the part you must hear clearly. Do not react emotionally. Do not explode. Do not seek revenge. Do not confront in anger. That is exactly what the enemy would want. Your reaction determines your elevation. Your response determines your next door. Archangel Michael commands you to stay calm, stay grounded, observe silently, and let heaven handle justice. The betrayal will hurt, yes, but the healing, the clarity, the protection, and the blessing that follow will heal 10 times faster than the betrayal stings. Something better is coming right after this exposure. A new connection, a new opportunity, a new blessing that was being blocked, a new chapter that requires you to detach from this person. Heaven is clearing your path. This revelation is not destruction. It is construction. Not loss, but upgrade. Not heartbreak, but redirection. You're being pulled out of a trap designed to bind your spirit. Archangel Michael says, do not panic. Do not fear. Just prepare your heart. The next 48 hours will reveal their true intentions. And once you see it, you will never unsee it. Once you know, you will never unknow. And once the truth is revealed, your life will shift in a way that protects your destiny from sabotage ever again. In this moment, Archangel Michael continues speaking over your spirit with a firmness that rises like a shield around you, telling you that the pressure you've been feeling, the tension in your chest, the sudden shift in people's behavior toward you, the strange dreams, the spiritual heaviness, the unexpected mood swings, all of it is connected to the reality that your reward is closer than you know, and because of this, someone who once appeared harmless has begun positioning themselves to take what heaven marked with your name. And he says you have been sensing it in ways you didn't fully understand. Those moments when your intuition sharpened for no reason, when someone's compliment didn't feel like a compliment, when a person's concern felt strangely rehearsed, when someone kept asking questions about your plans or your progress that felt more like surveillance than support. And Michael says this restlessness you've been carrying isn't fear, but spiritual detection, because your soul has been picking up on the energy of someone watching your steps more closely than they should, someone who notices your blessings before you do, someone who studies your movements like a thief planning an entry point, someone who smiles at you but studies your patterns, someone who pretends to cheer for you but grows tense whenever you win. And Michael says heaven has already begun exposing them in subtle ways. Their slip-ups, their inconsistencies, their sudden defensiveness, the way they quickly changed the subject when you talked about a new opportunity, the way they downplayed your potential not because they believed it, but because they feared it, The way they try to keep you second-guessing yourself because they knew that clarity would accelerate you into the blessing they wanted to intercept. And he says you must understand that the enemy rarely attacks what has no value. That jealousy is not born from hate, but from threatened admiration. That's spiritual interference. Increases the moment spiritual elevation is imminent. And this is why your life has felt like a series of interruptions, delays, and invisible blockages. Not because you're failing, but because you're rising. Not because you're weak, but because you become a target for what you're about to inherit. And Michael says the person trying to steal your reward has already begun scrambling spiritually because heaven has restricted their access, which is why lately they've been trying harder to insert themselves into your business. Why they suddenly want updates, why they try to appear extra helpful, why they're suddenly concerned, why they're suddenly available. And he says this shift is not kindness but desperation, because they sense the spiritual doors opening for you, and they know that once you step through, they will no longer be close enough to benefit from you, imitate you, manipulate you, or drain you. And Michael says what they want is not your downfall, but your detour. Because if they can delay you long enough, they believe they can enter the blessing before you. They believe they can take the opportunity that was meant for you. They believe they can stand in the place heaven was preparing you to stand. But what they don't know is that heaven has marked your name with light. And no matter how many times they try to replicate you, mimic you, mirror your efforts, or copy your ideas, they will never have your spiritual signature. And Michael says God has begun clearing the path by revealing the cracks in their intentions, making their energy feel heavier to you, making their conversations feel forced, making their presence feel draining instead of comforting, because your spirit is outgrowing the disguise they used to hide behind. And he says the reason their attempts suddenly feel obvious is because heaven is lifting the veil, and you're no longer blind to the truth that someone has been treating your blessings like a competition, your gifts like a threat, and your progress like a countdown. And Michael warns that this is the moment you must guard your plans, keep your moves quiet, reduce access, speak less, observe more, and protect what God entrusted to you, because not everyone around you is around you for pure reasons. And some stay close not to support your growth, but to manage your growth, not to celebrate your anointing, but to study it, not to honor your calling, but to imitate it. And he says heaven is not revealing this to scare you, but to prepare you, because the magnitude of your blessing requires spiritual strategy, discernment, and boundaries. And Michael says God has placed a fire around your destiny that no imitation can pass through, no jealous heart can infiltrate, no opportunist can slip into, and the person trying to steal your reward is already losing access to you without realizing it, because every spiritual awakening you've had recently, every moment of clarity, every surge of intuition, every sudden discomfort around them is a sign that heaven is restructuring your environment so your blessing can land safely without being intercepted or contaminated. And Michael says this reward that's coming is not something small, not something ordinary, not something you can lose by accident. It is something heaven has been aligning for years, something your ancestors prayed over, something your spirit has earned through endurance. And the reason the enemy has been using someone close to you is because distant enemies can't reach what God placed inside your hands. So the enemy attempted to use someone familiar, someone you trusted, someone who knew your strength and your vulnerabilities. But Michael says heaven has now blocked their spiritual reach, their influence, their access, and their ability to interfere. And though they may still attempt to imitate or compete, they will only exhaust themselves, because the blessing they're trying to claim requires spiritual authority they do not carry, favor they do not possess, humility they do not practice, sacrifice they did not make, and a heart they do not have. And Michael says you must now prepare to receive without fear, without hesitation, without shrinking yourself, because the season where people could drain you is ending, and the season where your reward must find you is beginning. And he says keep listening, because in the next part he will reveal exactly what type of blessing heaven is preparing and why it is so protected that even the person trying to steal, it will soon be forced to watch you receive it with their hands completely empty. And Archangel Michael continues, saying that the reason your spirit has felt stretched, sharpened, and strangely awakened these past days is because heaven has been moving you into a territory where your blessing can no longer be delayed, sabotaged, or redirected. And he reveals that this blessing is not simply an opportunity or a sudden breakthrough, but a divine shift that rewrites the narrative of your life. Something so deeply tied to your identity, your purpose, your calling, and your destiny that anyone who tries to interfere is not just opposing you. They're opposing divine order itself. And Michael says this is why God has been convicting your heart about certain behaviors, certain environments, and certain people, because the reward coming requires a version of you that is alert, discerning, and unmanipulated. And he says the person trying to steal what's yours has already felt the spiritual distance growing between you and them, which is why they have been trying to reattach themselves to you with compliments, guilt, nostalgia, or sudden emotional check-ins that feel less like care and more like reconnaissance. And Michael says that heaven has been watching their intentions long before you suspected anything, which is why every attempt they made to block your progress backfired. Every time they try to discourage you, you ended up growing stronger. Every time they try to plant doubt, God planted clarity. Every time they tried to drain your energy, heaven restored you quicker than before, because no darkness can overpower a soul protected by divine assignment. And Michael says that part of your restlessness comes from your spirit outgrowing the environments where betrayal once hid, from your intuition evolving past manipulation, from your heart recognizing that your destiny is too important to be shared with people who carry envy in their shadows. And he says the enemy chose this person because the enemy believed you would never suspect them, because they seemed harmless, because they pretended to understand you, because they disguised their jealousy as curiosity, because they cloaked their envy in compliments, because they learned your dreams not to support them, but to calculate how close you were to receiving them. And Michael says their attempts to imitate your path, your ideas, your spiritual insights, your progress, or your resilience were never signs of admiration, but indicators of insecurity. And he says this person wanted your reward not because they wanted your calling, but because they wanted the results of your calling without the responsibility, the discipline, the trials, the suffering, the spiritual development, the isolation, the warfare, and the purification you endured to earn it. And Michael says that you must understand this crucial truth. What they wanted from you is not your blessing. It was your outcome, the elevation, the attention, the recognition, the open doors, the opportunities, the glow that comes from God's favor. But they never desired the process it took for you to carry that glow, and heaven will never authorize someone to receive what they did not walk through, grow through, or break through. And this is why their attempts to interfere have begun to crumble, because the spiritual realm has already rejected their claim. And Michael says that heaven is repositioning you in a way that will make it impossible for them to keep up, impossible for them to copy, impossible for them to monitor, because the next phase of your journey will operate on a frequency their spirit cannot enter, a light their heart cannot withstand, a calling their intentions cannot survive. And he says that you may begin to notice people pulling away, conversations growing shorter, invitations diminishing, relationships fading. And this will not be because you did anything wrong, but because your spirit is rising into a dimension where only the purified can walk, only the honest can remain, only the loyal can benefit, and only the divinely aligned can stay. And Michael says your ancestors have been standing guard around your blessing, creating divine interference every time someone tries to peek into what God is preparing for you, causing plans built against you to collapse prematurely, causing gossip to backfire, causing manipulation to expose itself, causing jealousy to reveal its face through tone, attitude, or energy, because heaven refuses to let your inheritance fall into the hands of someone who only drew close to you for selfish gain. And Michael says that this blessing, this heavily guarded, spiritually protected reward, is tied to your next identity, your next assignment, your next level, and God will not allow anyone to claim it simply because they pretended to love you or support you. And he warns that you must now handle your decisions with carefulness, because every step you take in this season plants a seed for the life you're stepping into. And he says, God is preparing not just a breakthrough, but a repositioning that will elevate you above every imitation, every competitor, every jealous heart, every opportunist, and every person who tried to take what was meant for you. And Michael says to remain alert, because in the next part, he will reveal exactly why this blessing carries so much spiritual weight, and how heaven plans to make sure you receive it in a way that silences every enemy, confuses every imitator, and leaves every jealous heart. Watching as God hands you what was always, always yours. And Archangel Michael continues, saying that the weight of this blessing is far greater than you have imagined, because what God is preparing for you is not a simple shift or a temporary breakthrough, but a complete spiritual elevation that realigns your life with the purpose heaven wrote for you long before you were born. And he says the reason the enemy tried to use someone familiar to intercept it is because this coming blessing alters identity, restores dignity, amplifies spiritual authority, and places you on a path where jealousy can no longer reach you, imitation can no longer touch you, and manipulation can no longer influence you. And Michael says this is why your heart has been aching, why your energy has been inconsistent, why your nights have felt unsettled, because your soul has been preparing to receive something so sacred that heaven had to purify your circle, separate you from spiritual parasites, and burn away connections that would have contaminated your destiny. And he says God is not simply giving you a blessing, but granting you a divine inheritance, something your ancestors fought for, cried for, prayed for, and protected even in realms unseen. And Michael says your ancestors have been standing on every side of you, blocking every spiritual attack, pushing away every person whose intentions were hidden, whispering warnings into your intuition, strengthening your discernment when your heart was too soft to see the truth, because they knew this blessing was not meant to be shared with people who would drain you, diminish you, or disguise themselves as supporters while stealing from your spirit. And he says the person who tried to take your reward will soon find themselves confused, frustrated, and spiritually exposed, because everything they attempted to imitate will begin slipping through their fingers. Every door they tried to open through you will remain shut. Every opportunity they thought they could steal will collapse before it reaches their hands. Every plan they made to stay ahead of you will backfire, and every attempt to use your energy, your ideas, your kindness, or your vulnerability will be returned to them as empty harvest, because they planted envy instead of honor, deceit instead of support, competition instead of loyalty. And Michael says that heaven is now shifting your timeline so rapidly that those who underestimated you will not even understand how you rose so quickly. Those who compare themselves to you will lose sight of your level. Those who try to manipulate you will no longer know how to reach you. And those who secretly wished for your delay will face the uncomfortable truth that God accelerated you despite their interference. And he says this blessing coming is layered. Part of it will show up as a breakthrough you've been waiting on for far too long. Part of it will appear as unexpected clarity, part of it as a divine connection, part of it as restoration of what was lost, and part of it as a positioning that makes your name spoken in rooms you've never entered, by people you've never met, for opportunities you didn't even know were forming. And Michael says God is going to elevate you publicly in a way that reassures your spirit that every tear, every sacrifice, every lonely season, every betrayal, every silent battle was not for nothing. And the person who tried to steal your blessing will be forced to watch you rise in a way that makes it undeniable that heaven chose you, protected you, and appointed you. And he says you must not let fear interrupt this moment, because the enemy has already accepted their defeat. The spiritual interference has already been broken, and the path before you is already cleared. And Michael says this is the part where you prepare not by worrying, but by aligning yourself with expectancy, making space for the blessing, speaking life over your next chapter, guarding your spirit, and trusting that God is not only bringing the blessing, but protecting the delivery of it. And he says heaven wants you to know that this final phase will feel fast, sudden, and almost unbelievable, because God is about to return everything stolen, multiply everything delayed, and accelerate everything promised. And when your blessing arrives, it will silence doubt, Silence fear, silence envy, and silence every voice that spoke against you. Because people will not be able to deny the hand of God on your life, and your reward will not be quieted, will not be subtle, it will not be hidden, it will be a public demonstration of divine justice. And Michael says before you finish this message, heaven is placing a seal over your blessings so strong that no enemy, no imitator, no jealous heart, and no hidden intention will be able to intercept it again. And as the final reassurance, he asks you to hold on to this truth. When God prepares a reward, he does not allow anyone else to collect it. And this blessing that is coming, this long-awaited restoration, elevation, and breakthrough will reach you untouched, unaltered, unshared, and entirely yours, because heaven has already written your name on it, protected your path toward it, and silenced every force that tried to steal it. And now all that is left is for you to receive what was always meant for you.